Good afternoon, Misfits. This is another little story I thought you might enjoy. I called it originally Our Night at Cynthia's. Some of you travel far and wide, quite globe-trotting community, I think. But I'm hampered by having an elderly dog, so we tend not to go out of Britain even. Haven't been out of Britain for ages. But that's not a big burden. This was something that happened a few years ago, before COVID. I had this idea that I wanted to go to a dog show in the Midlands. It was a dog show that had a stall on it called Wonderful World of Border Collies. And that's actually a group that I follow on Facebook because they're very funny and informative. And they were actually going to be selling a few bits and bobs about Wonderful World of Border Collies. Anyway, here we go. It took me almost 4 hours to reach the dog show north of Leicester that Sunday. I had driven straight across London thinking the traffic would be easy, but I was wrong. We stopped at a service station somewhere up the M1 so that I could research and book some overnight accommodation. A quick internet search threw up a dog-friendly B&B opposite a park. £35 for the night, no breakfast included, and the owner was happy to take the booking over the phone. Eventually we were back on the motorway again, and a heavy rain hammered down on us as we travelled. The friend who was going to meet me at the dog show had been waiting for me. She didn't have a dog herself at the time, but she was happy to humour me on a wet Sunday, as she didn't live too far away. I hadn't asked her if I could stay overnight at her place because I wasn't sure how my dog, Buddy, a boisterous collie, would behave, hence the need to book dog-friendly accommodation nearby. If I had planned this trip in advance, it would have been much more sensible. But my decision to drive up there was really a spur-of-the-moment thing, as you do. I wasn't entering Buddy in the show. He wouldn't win any prize except perhaps most annoying dog on the planet, but he was a good passenger, and I wanted to seek out the Wonderful World of Border Collies stall. And then I thought maybe if she had time, my friend and I could go for a meal afterwards. By the time I arrived, it was 3 p.m. The ground was awash and thick with mud. Heather was standing near her car, drenched but philosophical. You could have chosen a drier day. We tramped around the site, but most of the exhibitors were packing up and going home. A few soggy judges were going through motions of judging a few soggy dogs. Wonderful World of Border Collies had thrown in the towel half an hour earlier, we were told, and they were nowhere in sight. In short, from my point of view, the whole thing was a complete washout. I apologised to Heather and asked if I could treat her to tea or a meal somewhere, and her best idea was to return to the motorway and visit the closest service station. We sat in their cafe eating dry cake and drinking pallid tea until Heather said she had to go home. Now it was about 4:30. I had told the B&B that I would arrive around 9 p.m. It was in a small town nearby, and the drive there would only take half an hour or less, but I thought if I arrived early it would not be the end of the world. I could exercise Buddy in the nearby park. The town was one I had been to years ago as a child with my mother on a visit to her best friend, a retired teacher called Winnie who used to live there for many years. A respectable town, I remembered it. Perfectly safe, I assumed. The rain stopped pouring down as we drove, and the sun was out as we arrived on the road where the B&B was. I parked outside and took Buddy for a run in the park, which proved to be remarkably immaculate. Every blade of grass trimmed to perfection, every flower bed manicured and ablaze with colour. Even more amazing for a Sunday was that the little park boasted a park keeper in a peaked cap, sitting in a booth selling sweets and drinks. You don't get even a park keeper in the parks I was used to in South London, let alone peaked caps and Sunday service. By now I had killed almost an hour, but rather than go straight up to the B&B, I thought it'd be courteous to ring and confirm whether it was okay to bring my stuff up and check in. The owner answered the phone. I don't recall her name, but let's call her Cynthia. The aunt, "Oh," she said, "you're early." "Yes, I'm sorry. It didn't take me as long as I thought to reach you. Is there a problem?" Yes. "The room's not available anymore," she replied. "Oh gosh, that's terrible, but I thought I'd made a firm booking." "I'm afraid you can't have that room. Sorry." "Do you have any others then? I'm desperate." "No, I'm sorry, that was the last one." And then she added somewhat tardily, "There was a plumbing problem." I was aghast. I didn't want to drive all the way back to London. I was too tired. "Well, please can you find me alternative accommodation? I've got my dog here and we both need to settle down for the evening. I don't feel safe driving all the way back home. It's been a long day already." "You could try my friend Nancy round the corner," Cynthia said. "I've got her number somewhere, or just go round there." "Look," I said, losing my cool, "you are the one who created this trouble. You ring Nancy and ring me straight back, please. I'll take the dog back to the park." I hung up, miffed, and returned to the park quietly seething. I decided to tell the park keeper what had happened. He heard my tale and he said, "Is it that place over there?" and pointed to the B&B. "Yes," I replied, and I noticed his lips purse ever so slightly. He picked up a phone and tried ringing a few hotels for me, but he only had the names of larger ones whose calls went through on an answering machine on a Sunday evening, and despite his efforts, we made no progress. I was about to brazen it out with Cynthia and insist she find at least floor space for us when she rang me back. "Nancy can't help," she said. "But it's okay, you can have that room. The problem's been sorted. Come round, I'm in the car park." I drove up the slope that led to the car park and to the front door at the side of the house and parked the car. In the car park, a woman with waist-length silvery grey hair, wearing a floor-length caftan, was drinking a glass of wine surrounded by 5 or 6 young men. This was Cynthia. She saw Buddy descend from the car and rushed over to make a fuss of him. "Oh, he's lovely, isn't he? Oh, I lost my own dog a fortnight ago," and her eyes brimmed with tears. "I'm sorry about the mix-up. You can have that room. Marcus will take you up there. Oh, and you can pay him or Andre in the morning." She added, "I sleep in late because of my illness. Please don't disturb me." She beckoned one of the young men over. I anticipated that she might not have a card reader in the establishment, and as I had no cash, I asked where the nearest hole in the wall was. She started giving me instructions and then said, "It's okay, Marcus will take you there." Marcus led me silently up to my room on the second floor first, carrying my bags while I brought up Buddy's bed and food bowls. Then he led us through the streets of the town to a hole in the wall and waited patiently while I took out some money. On our return, Cynthia and the young men were still laughing and drinking in the car park. I decided to go straight upstairs and stay there. I fed Buddy, ate a sandwich I'd bought at a motorway cafe, arranged Buddy's bed, made myself a cup of tea and sat myself in an armchair with a book to read. But I found it hard to settle. The room was adequate, no discernible plumbing problems, no frills, and the bed looked reasonably comfortable. There were some old prints of Leicester countryside on the walls. However, the windows overlooked the car park, and the merriment down below continued for hours and hours. Smoking, laughter, whoops of glee, shouting. I'd forgotten to ask where to find Marcus in the morning, but I reckoned I would deal with that tomorrow. On and on went the commotion outside. Didn't they have work to go to in the morning, I thought. I changed into some pyjamas and shut the windows tight. At around 11:30 p.m. it was raining again and Buddy was showing signs of needing his late-night comfort break. I threw on a coat over my pyjamas and descended the staircase and out into the car park. I nodded to the revellers and walked Buddy briskly to the park, which by now was locked. We slunk around outside the park in the rain until Honor had been satisfied, and we returned to the B&B. The young men nodded to me as we went indoors. Cynthia must have retired to her room long ago. It was just the young men there now. I suppose they weren't doing any harm, just drinking and smoking and making the best of a wet English evening. But their noise was unsettling and it continued until about 2 a.m. I finally fell asleep at around 2:30 a.m. and when I woke in the morning was very keen to get away and on the road. I packed up as fast as I could and started taking my stuff to the car. There was no one around now except a German tourist and her daughter, and I mistook them rather stupidly for roommaids. They were trying doors on the ground floor, and when I asked if they knew which one was Marcus's room, they said they were guests and looking for the dining room. Wir wollen frühstücken. We want breakfast. I said gently that the B&B didn't do breakfast and felt a bit ashamed at this less than glorious example of British hospitality. I found a room on the ground floor with an open door and could see lots of empty beer bottles and some bedding inside. A dishevelled Marcus suddenly appeared from behind the door, and I made to pay him the £35 for the night. "Oh, that's okay," he said. 30 will do. And he took the money off me. I asked for a receipt, but he said Cynthia was the only one to write receipts, but she didn't want to be disturbed. I gave up and went back upstairs to retrieve the rest of my things. As I went up, curiosity got the better of me, and I peered down the corridor of the rooms on the first floor. The corridor and doors were all hand-decorated with leafy artwork, and some had representations of Adam and Eve on them, and other naked figures, Greek gods and the like. Fascinated, I strayed down the corridor further and realised that each room had a name label. The first one was Cupid's Bower, the next, Love Shack, and the third, Amour. The fourth was the Secret Boudoir, and the fifth, the Chamber of Venus. I beat a hasty retreat and continued upstairs. Thank God my own room had no sign on it. Finally, I collected Buddy's bed and gubbins, and as I was manoeuvring it down and round the small reception hall at the bottom of the stairs, I noticed an illuminated cabinet on the far wall. It contained the shapely legs of a shop mannequin, clad only in fishnet stockings. A pair of whips lay at the feet of this display. In front of it was a small hall table stacked with men's magazines. I raced to my car, stuffed the bed in, made Buddy comfortable and was about to drive off when I saw a middle-aged couple emerging from the B&B. The man hailed me and I wound down a window to speak to him. "Have you just stayed there?" the man asked with a look of incredulity on his face. "Yes," I confessed. "It's the weirdest place we've ever stayed at," he exclaimed. "Quite so," I replied. "I think it might be a house of ill repute."